What's good, guys? It's ILLSVN 4K, and I bought a large dumpster to go clear out my basement, and while I was clearing out my basement, I found something really cool. I found a sack in my basement, a beautiful red crushed velvet sack. Pause. And it was beautiful, and I just couldn't get over how clean this thing was. Like, my basement floods. Like, this thing has been under at least 20 feet of water at one point. Not 20 feet, but at least 5 at one point when the sump pump didn't kick on, and it looked immaculate. And then I opened it up, and I realized I might have something different because inside of this were letters that were also seemingly undestroyed. I mean, not destroyed at all. And then I pulled one out, and look what it said on it. Can you see that? Is the lighting letting you see it? I'm trying to see. To Santa. Yes, these are letters to Santa Claus. Real letters. Real letters to Santa Claus. And it's unbelievable because as soon as I took them out of the sack and I put them down, I started opening them up to read them. I turned around, and the sack was gone. Vanished. But the letters stayed. So I have some letters in here that are, of course, from video gamers at the time. And 1996 was a very interesting year to be a video gamer and want Christmas gifts because the 16-bit, the 32-bit, and the 64-bit generations were actually all alive and well. And believe it or not, 3 or 4 of the top-selling games that year were still for Super Nintendo. Unbelievable. And 2 of them were even Donkey Kong Country 2 and 3. Oh, man. This is a great thing. So why don't we go and take a look at these letters and see what's going on and open them up and have a blast. All right, guys, so how we're going to do this is this. We're going to do this by console generation because I've noticed most of these letters are grouped into A, kids who have consoles and want games for the console, such as new PlayStation owners, or B, broke people like me who had Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis, and we're scrambling to find good games for the holiday season in 1996, which wasn't impossible, but let me tell you, we weren't getting no Mario 64 or Tekken 2s on the Super Nintendo, okay? That's just what it was. So let's open up this letter and see if this kid shared some of my minor misery. Ah, yes. Mortal Kombat in the 90s and Christmas. The two went practically hand in hand from 1993 right around 1998 with Trilogy. And actually, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 was released on the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo, but also released on the Sega Saturn as an exclusive. But this was the last year anyone would be asking for a brand new Mortal Kombat game on a 16-bit console, so I had to cover this. I actually had my first Mortal Kombat game on Game Gear for the first home console experience with it, but Christmas 1996 had me get this bad boy for the Super Nintendo, and at the time, I was unaware of how different arcade versions of games were from consoles, so I was practically none the wiser when this finally became available to us US 16-bit gamers. Boasting the entire roster of the arcade release, plus Rain and a few others, this game truly did push the Super Nintendo and Genesis to their limits in their final days, giving the console generation that helped solidify Mortal Kombat as a serious here-to-stay player in the video game world, the 16-bit systems, a final hurrah before the game would require next-generation hardware for its release, Trilogy, before going full 3D in Mortal Kombat 4. This is mostly possible as Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 in the arcades was just an add-on board for Mortal Kombat 3 cabinets with new artwork and marquee lighting, so with the small removal of things like less body parts during explosion, frames of animations, making the 16-bit version possible was pretty much playable, compromises aside. Audio of course takes a hit, though it's far from unbearable. Sprite size is smaller, but that's the norm with this series in the console generations since the first game. The exclusive Saturn port, however, seems to be a very good translation, as expected with next-generation hardware at the time, so it's a completely different game, you might say. But gameplay on all of them is what you wish Mortal Kombat 3 was, with a decent speed and frame rate going along nicely, along with the new characters, moves and combos. Make this the one to go back to if you're a fan of the series, and like me at the time, all you had was 16-bit consoles, and wanted to get in on the most recent Mortal Kombat game at the time. All the cheap AI, broken characters, and usual suspects of this essential clusterfuck of a game in the series are here, and this was still a lot of fun for its time to me in Christmas 1996 when I got it, alongside Street Fighter Alpha 2 for the Super Nintendo, which was an equally rough translation. So, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 on 16-bit consoles. Really cool, really awesome to see the final hurrah of the generation of console that brought Mortal Kombat from the arcades into homes in the early 90s get that final send-off, but it was rough. and it wasn't anybody's fault other than the fact that the hardware had reached its limitations and it was time for next generation's consoles to handle the Mortal Kombat series, which it did flawlessly with Mortal Kombat Trilogy for the most part. This game is still enjoyable and fun to play, and I definitely think you should take a look at it just to see the marvel of what it took to make this final little bit of history in Mortal Kombat happen in 16-bit generations. Donkey Kong Country 3. The final entrant in the Donkey Kong Country series for the 16-bit era, Donkey Kong Country made sure it counted as it offered up a massive sprawling open-world travel with level-based architecture similar to ones before it based on the theme of said level. But this time around it was done on a whole new level, no pun intended, with secret coins, levels, bosses, and as part of the course for the Donkey Kong Country series, a secret ending for those crazy enough to actually try and complete it in its entirety. And anyone who's ever tried to do it will tell you that is one crazy thing to pull off. Offering up yet another new member of the Kong family this time around, Kiddy Kong, he is to help Dixie, whom he is the younger cousin of, to go and save Donkey Kong and Diddy, as both of them have been kidnapped by King K. Rool for this game's plot. While not quite living up to the expectations Donkey Kong 2 gave us, as most felt creatively, Donkey Kong Country 2 actually outshined the other two in the series, Donkey Kong Country 3 did a great job in continuation of the upgrading features found in Donkey Kong Country 2. The levels offer new challenges and obstacles, alongside new animal friends, and much like Donkey Kong Country 2, upgraded moves for old animal friends. Even the map screen allowed for more fun and freedom than ever before, with new rides such as watercrafts and even airborne features. Gameplay-wise, it is tight as previous entries, with a satisfying joy of bouncing off Kremlin's heads, killing a row of enemies with a Rambi Rush, or finding a new hidden area with the spider animals while platforming your way in every single direction, with some levels like the last Donkey Kong Country 2 being gigantic non-linear levels with the ability to traverse left, right, up, and down. Boss battles return and do the series justice quite well, as again, Donkey Kong Country 2 laid down the gauntlet for there to be those matches. The final battle with King K. Rool is unique as expected, with multiple false deaths and tricky traps from the King of Kremlins himself. Visually, one could say Donkey Kong Country was a tour de force of the digitized 16-bit era of graphics, giving us some very bright and colorful worlds and graphics, along with character animations and solid 16-bit lighting effects for the time. So, while I was just a little bit harsh on it in the review because I really did like Donkey Kong Country 2 the most out of the trilogy, and I happen to not own Donkey Kong Country 2, unfortunately, I cannot deny the excitement I had when I did open up Donkey Kong Country 3 on Christmas morning, as it was unexpected and I didn't ask for it, and it was also fantastic. I totally recommend you check the game out. If you want to do some crazy stuff, try and unlock that 103% ending. It is absolutely incredible. I've never done it, but I sure have YouTubed it. So make sure you check it out, guys. Donkey Kong Country 3. Super Mario RPG, The Legend of the Seven Stars. So, nobody saw this or asked for this game when it came out, and I actually had the game when it first came out, and was pretty confused the first 20 minutes in playing. How did this all work? What the hell was I doing just standing there while this hammer brother hits me? My turn? What the fuck do you mean my turn? Is this a board game or a video game? It turns out it was a video game with board game rules called an RPG that I was very uncultured to at the time. Apparently this was how they worked, and while I was deeply confused, I still couldn't help but notice that it didn't suck, and I really didn't mind it once I got the hang of it. You see, once upon a time, Final Fantasy was a Nintendo exclusive series, so the first 6 games in Japan and the first 3 in America, and you might say Square Enix, its developer, and Nintendo were the best of friends. This led to a collaboration between the two of them in this instance, and it turned out quite delightful, as it took the Mario lore on an enchanted journey outside the Mushroom Kingdom and introduced new characters to the series such as Mallow and Geno, and allowing us for the first time since Mario Kart to play as the big baddie himself, Bowser, as his castle has been overthrown by the game's new true antagonist, Smithy the Sword. This is another final hurrah in the digital graphics world for the 16-bit era, as this game featured turn-based fightings and had a slew of new villains to fight against, including one that actually kidnaps Princess Peach, who you save, and that she then joins your party for the fight. Each character possesses their own unique attacks and magic attacks, hiding their known features. Mario uses fireballs and jumps. Geno, a magic spirit that possesses a child's toy, uses unique magic discs and powers. Bowser uses his shell and even sends his minions such as bombs to attack, and it goes on from there with all the characters. Each is fun to use with their own pros and cons, like a high-quality RPG would offer, and it didn't get much more high quality than RPGs than Square Enix in 1996. Keep in mind, this is the company that only a year later would give us Final Fantasy VII. In terms of its looks, it offers a very well done and unique landscapes, including the Mushroom Kingdom, an underwater shipwreck that has one of the hardest boss battles ever, and a sky palace literally in the clouds with the corrupt royalty in its kingdom, a toy factory, and lastly Bowser's castle. The final level, within the new main villain Smithy, is one of the most unsettling dark ones I've ever seen in a Mario game, and the final actual boss battle with Smithy is like a fever dream Mario game you almost don't believe is real, like Mario 2. Again, this literally took Mario and Final Fantasy and combined them perfectly. A great Twilight Year release for the Super Nintendo, and a welcome opening in any 16-bit fan's Xmas morning that year. Okay, as I stated in the review, I did not actually have this game on Christmas morning. I bought this actually as a September release, if I recall. I remember playing it right before school started in whatever school year I was in September, and being kind of blown away by it because it looked like Mario 64, and it wasn't Mario 64 because we weren't getting Mario 64 on a Super Nintendo, but more importantly, I wasn't getting a Nintendo 64 for quite some time, so this looked like a great halfway point, and it was. Again, at first a little confusing, but as soon as you get into it, the game just rolls right along, and I really suggest you go and check this one out if you want to go and see where more of the RPG element based in Mario and whatnot have started. Again, Super Mario RPG, Super Nintendo, worth taking a look at.